Well, good morning, Southern Oregon. Welcome to another episode of The Real Estate Show. Pete Belcastro, my co-host, and I, Alice Lima, we're here. We're both brokers from John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon, and we are bringing you another rendition of The Real Estate Show. And just in the nick of time, because boy, what an interesting week we had here in Southern Oregon, didn't we, Pete?
Well, Alice, first of all, hi, here we are mid-March, okay? So winter is almost over and spring is here. That's usually the April and May are usually the busiest real estate months of the year. But we have had the run up to that has been, to me, phenomenal as far as terms of sales. There's just a lot of activity going on. We're going to talk about that in depth today with our viewers and listeners. And the reason is that the market is so dynamic, as we say, it changes every week. We need to be on top of it. Whether you're buying, selling, renting, looking, whatever you're doing, you have to be on top of the market. So we're going to talk about those things today. But what does that mean? What's happening with sales? How can I get my offer in? The most interesting stats as we look at the inventory levels, Alice, is that they simply are not rising. There's still as many sales taking place as there are listings coming on. Therefore, the overall number is still not rising. And that's really makes the market change every week, don't you think?
I do, but it also depends on how you look at it. Because if you drill down, some of the little micro markets are having a slightly different adjustment. You always bring up the higher price points. Boy, if you have a property listed over $1 million, you have some stiff competition. They are still selling though, which I find very interesting. Just this last week, we had some go pending. We have some new ones coming on the market, but it is definitely a buyer's market in those upper price ranges. And then if you look at both counties overall, we still have a really high back on market rate, but I'm telling you, it's like you said, it's still a little bit of a fist fight out there, but there is a swell of listings and they are getting on the market slowly but surely.
Well, they are. And I even had this week, I had a client, we were looking to buy a place and we're viewing it, and all of a sudden we found out that from the seller that she was looking for a place where the seller had a place to sell, and all of a sudden you had a deal. So it's strange things happening to get these things sometimes, it seems like. But luck, you make your own luck in real estate. And so we're going to explore that today, about how you can make your luck work for you to get the house that you want in a market that is changing literally by the day.
And I think we're just about to the anniversary of the shutdown too. So Pete Belcastro, Alice Lima, we have a lot to talk about. Do not touch that dial. Well, welcome back, folks, to The Real Estate Show. Pete Belcastro, my co-host, and I, Alice Lima, we're both brokers here at John L. Scott in Southern Oregon. And today is our Market Watch edition of The Real Estate Show. And right before the break, Pete and I were talking about some of the stats. And Pete, you were mentioning how it sounds like the listings actually went down last week. Is that what you were saying?
Well, this is what, we every week here, we follow the same stats. We look at frame built homes, we have manufactured home later. I'm going to tell you about that, but we look at the frame homes in Jackson County. This last week, there was 227 of them on the market. The week before that, there was 255. We were talking about, look, it had been 3 weeks in a row of rises a little bit, and then we went down. So that shows us that it's not climbing the way we need it to get above only 255 frame-built listings in Jackson County. But look down that, Alice, go below that. Over half the market in Jackson County are prices at $500,000 and above. 136 of those 255 homes are priced at $500,000 above. That means there's 90 homes in the remainder of all of Jackson County, from Ashland to Rogue River to Eagle Point, wherever, 90 that are priced under $500,000. Those are the ones that are going. I mean, those are the ones you look at the stats every like these things every week, and those are the homes that are selling because they're obviously affordable for most of us who can do that. So they've gone down. Look, Josephine County has still only 87 total listings in the entire county right now, Alice. 87. Klamath County has 65. They're down again from the week prior. Both those counties are down. So pendings are good. There's lots of sales going on, but we're still not getting the increase in listings to really give people a better choice. So until that happens, it looks like we're going to have continue to be fighting in that 250 range, 300 range, 350 range. We're going to have to keep fighting to get those sales, especially for buyers.
And, those numbers are being quoted for the stick-built Jackson County only. And I think if we talk also about some of the lots, we have residential lots, several of those came on the market this week. And manufactured is a definite good alternative here in Southern Oregon. Lots and lots of us have lived in them, are comfortable living in them. They do have a decent resale here in Southern Oregon. So if you add those in, then there definitely is more of a selection. But the lower price range, we saw quite a flurry of little cottages come on the market this week, under 300,000 in West Medford, Northwest Medford, a little bit in Central Point, a little bit in Old East Medford, but boy, they sure get scooped up fast. And a lot of them have tenants in them. And that is a difficult situation. It's uncomfortable for the buyers. Sometimes they feel bad if they're going to look at a house to buy and there's tenants in there. Sometimes, especially the youngers, they hesitate to write an offer because they're worried about displacing a tenant. Plus, if you have to give 90-day notice to a tenant to vacate, then we have a little bit of an arm wrestle with the lenders. Can they keep the lock going that long?
Well, I've had the same issue, and you're exactly right. And I don't know what the solution is to there, but we've got some real issues with that, Alice. Anyway, yeah.
Well, we have so many. Oh, sorry.
You talked about manufactured for a second on land, and yes, the problem with that, a couple of weeks ago, we had Lori Hawk from Holton Homes with us, and she told us at the time that they were at least 10 months away. If you went in today to order something, you might be 10 months away from that. And think of all the manufactured home, the parts that are being cleaned up right now. The demand is going to be quite high. I had a client go in to do that exact same thing right after we did the show. They wanted to buy a piece of Josephine County. We're going to bring a manufactured home on. It's going to be over a year for them to do that. And so they kind of said, geez, we got to change our plans here because maybe that's going to be too long for us to wait.
Yeah, I think if you're going to go into a construction project, you got to really look into that. And putting a manufactured on land is actually construction. So you still have to go through a lot of the same formats. We have a lot of existing mobile homes on land, and those are great alternatives. We had several come on the market this week, and they're getting a good amount of traffic. So we'll have to watch and see how those, how long it takes for those to go into escrow. And it's interesting because we still have a pretty good amount of out-of-town buyers, but I'm seeing, Pete, and I don't know if it's like this for you too, a lot more of our locals are starting to put bids in on some of that real property here in Southern Oregon. Are you seeing that as well, or you still have a lot of relocators?
I have a lot of relocators still. I think people locally that I talk to, they all know that there's not much out there to go to, I think. And so that hesitation remains, hesitant to maybe put it forward. I had a client, we just didn't have a place to go. I mean, they were afraid to list their house, even though you could say, it's good until I find replacement property. People are just hesitant to do that. And you brought up the point also about with tenants. I want to go back to that for 1 second about the 90-day thing. That is really a big issue. And I think that we all need to be aware and sensitive to that because the tenants know those rules. And unless and I've asked my sellers on this, I said, you're welcome to negotiate with the tenants. If you want them to get out early, if that kind of thing, you can negotiate with the tenant to get them to leave earlier. I don't know if people want to do that, but I've seen as some have heard people have done as far as give them 2 months of rent free or pay them 2 months rent worth to get them out early, get them their deposit backs within 30 days or so. So the tenant thing is really something. And you were right. I have also found, Alice, it surprised me like you, a lot of the buyers were very cognizant of that tenant in there and the fact that they were going to dislocate the tenant even to buy the house. And many people felt very uncomfortable with that. And I was kind of surprised that, you try to say it's just part of, life here, and you can't do everything that you want, but I've really been sensitive to that with tenants, and I think we all need to, because it is an issue and we have to work our way through it correctly.
Yeah, yeah. And it's interesting. We have all these rentals that came on the market in the last 6 months. And there are some landlords out there scooping them up, but it seems like it's more right now owner occupied, especially in the lower price ranges. If you're selling a fourplex, eightplex, 24plex, definitely investors buying those. But if you're selling a rental cottage, a rental single story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath, or a duplex, then it seems like it's more frequently an owner occupied or actually a family group. And we still have fire victims finally getting out of their rentals because they've had a certain number of months to get their rent paid. And they're starting to enter the market at a time when we're still trying to encourage all these sellers to put their house on the market, but it's definitely coming in dribs and drabs.
Yeah, well, and you're right. The fire victims, insurance money has come through. I know the Paradise fire victims are now getting checks out of that big $1 billion plus $7 billion relief fund, and so.
But that was for the electric company, right?
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about? Okay.
Yeah, that PG&E fund that they had to pay like $7 billion into that
thing. So that's where the money's coming out right now.
Paradise and from California, not from here or anything, but so we have all that happening. Just to show you again, pending sales are doing really well. I mean, things are going off the market as fast as they're coming on. Last week in Jackson County, were 44, Alice, closed sales, which was down actually from the previous weeks. 44 is pretty low here. The average price was $457,000 and 0.21 of an acre lot. So they're very small. Jackson County, obviously, when you look at all the counties together, is the most expensive county. The highest median price. Josephine County is at $381,000. Klamath County is at $219,000. You get more here than you do there, and so people are trying to look around of where can I go that I can feel comfortable with my loan and my payments, and what kind of property do I get? So all of that is taking place in the. I guess that's what makes it, dynamic, because it really does change. You may see, you have a bunch of new listings that have come on, haven't you said that? I mean, you yourself.
Yeah, a lot of us do. It's why I keep saying the people that were worried about the COVID and putting their house on the market, quite a few of them have been vaccinated already. Quite a few of them have had their second vaccine. Predominantly a lot of our folks here in Southern Oregon are over 55, like us. So yeah, I think we see a big stir. We also have a lot of people just leaving the area. They're taking their remote jobs or their internet jobs with them and going to other locations. So I think we're going to have a pretty busy spring. If you look at both counties in the entirety of the market, not just the stick-built residential homes, if you look at the whole Jackson and Josephine County combined, our back on market rate is pretty high. So we have in both counties, all categories of real estate, 185 new listings, 46 back on market.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's true. Okay. A year ago, you said right. A year ago, right now, the pandemic started and things began to shut down. Right. This next week.
This is about our anniversary. So, yeah.
It is. So a year ago in Jackson County, there were we had 660 listings.
Yeah.
Okay. A year ago, when the pandemic hit, 660, which was really low then.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're everything, condos, everything in there. There's 261 a year later. That's down 60%. You go to Josephine County a year ago, they had 242 listings and 88 today. That's down 64%.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
These listings are coming on.
I know, and I'm willing to be wrong, but I don't think I am. I got just another call, a guy who bought a house not even a year ago because of the artificial spike in prices because of the COVID, and then again because of the fires. He has a house that's not even 1 year old on his watch, and he's already made $45,000. He's going to sell it and buy something else. Yes. He's going to take the capital gains hit because it actually pencils. Isn't that shocking?
It is, but look, it's not that you're wrong on coming on. It's that the demand is higher than what you're bringing on in new listings.
But I'm happy
That's
to be
that.
wrong. I would be happy to be wrong, but I'm just
But
saying, I don't think so.
yeah, yeah, no, but they're just going off so fast because the demand is so high.
Yeah. And the back
It's,
on market, boy, if you're a buyer, I know it's hard because you got to write your offer right then and there. But then they get cold feet. So if you're a buyer, you gotta kind of think all that through ahead of time. If you're a seller, you get too many good offers right out of the gate. You just brace yourself in case the one you take changes their mind.
yeah, and again, we want to caution as we talk about this with people is that you're not going to get high prices. These things still have to appraise appraise correctly and things like that. So you have to be very price them correctly. And I think is the issue there. Don't just come on and just say I want to go. I think I can get this much money for my property without even thinking about that, because that's really not the case. And some of those are still the ones that are hanging out there that haven't sold because of that.
See, don't you see
Just
more of that? People just languishing on the market.
Oh yeah, but just think if we had 660 listings like we had a year ago, we think we're in hog heaven. I mean,
Oh,
what
that
a
would be
choice!
fabulous.
And I'm just curious if or how we're going to ever go back to those levels. I think that's really up for debate. Whether or not when that will happen, it certainly will, but when is a big if. So the biggest thing in the next segment, Al, is about affordability. That's a big concern as we go forward here because prices are rising. We'll talk about that later too.
All right. Well, folks, we have a quick break coming up. We're sponsored today by John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, which we appreciate very much. Do not touch that dial. Pete Belcastro, Alice Lima will be right back with more of The Real Estate Show. Well, welcome back to The Real Estate Show, folks. I'm Alice Lima here with my co-host, Pete Belcastro. We're both real estate brokers at John L. Scott here in Southern Oregon. And we're having a very lively conversation about the transitional market, I guess we could call it, Pete, because we still do have a shortage. We still have properties coming on the market, and it is changing the dynamics of things in part because of the COVID as we start to open up a little bit. And the fire people still, a lot of those lots are not even cleaned up yet. Have you noticed that down in Ashland and Phoenix, Pete?
Well, last time I've been driving through there, and I got to do it about every week now. I really seen a transformation in some places. Bear Lake Estates, where I was at, it's been all cleaned up. It looks like it's going to be accepting new homeowners, or not property owners, but new residents pretty soon. I don't know that. You saw some stick-built homes being built, but they're going to be few and far between because contractors are backed up. And prices are rising there on materials, as you know. So that recovery is going to be slow, but you're right. There's still an awful lot of debris and still to be cleaned up. And it's going to take, we're at the 6-month anniversary of that this last week. Alice, was the 6-month anniversary of the Alameda fire. And, here we are. We've seen some, but not very much. I wanted just to tell, I think the hottest market, where that is right now, is really in Josephine County. And it's so interesting because days on the market there are the fewest of all the counties that we have. But they just are just down listings just terribly. Almost, I should say it's 64%, Alice. And I don't know how you make that up. There's such little new construction that goes on in Josephine County that it just seems like it's just going to take forever to ever get even to 100 listings for some reason, because they're going off the market as fast as they're coming on too. But the prices have risen in Josephine County. The 3 months of December, January, and February of the last 3 months, prices have risen in Josephine County by almost 24% from a year ago, Alice. And that is just a huge increase. And I think we need to be aware of that. The median price in Josephine County hit almost $300,000 now, which is really high for there. So there's a lot of activity going on, but just very few new housing, new construction going on that's going to have any effect there. But Josephine County is the hottest market. I mean, they go off the fastest. They also have the fewest. They also have few listings.
Well,
And
it's such a great value, Josephine County, and the lifestyle is wonderful. You're near the river, you're close to the coast, you're also close to Medford, and the taxes are lower. The taxes are lower in Josephine County than they are in Jackson. So I find that we do have buyers starting their search in Jackson County and then picking Josephine County over
oh
Jackson County,
yeah,
or sometimes even picking Klamath County, just
I,
because the overall package for their payment every month is so much less.
well, and you're right, and that's a real concern for us. Go back to Jackson County here. That was last 3 month period. Prices rose overall, just with I guess homes of 14.2%. That's double digit. That's pretty high for us. I've not seen it that high overall since we've done this for a number of years, but we've seen it double digit before. But this is 14%. But go down to rural properties. Remember, we've been talking about how these are under siege. I mean, they're so popular, people want them. You listen to this. In Jackson County, in the last 3 months, okay, there were 148 sales of rural properties, and the median price was $616,000, and prices had risen from a year ago by 32% in rural properties in Jackson County. In Josephine County, they've risen by, let me get it right, by 20%. So
Isn't that incredible? And then
they are,
the question is that sustainable? And so you base that projection on why is it people are buying these properties? How long do we project they're going to hang on to them? And then what is going to be their motivation to sell? And what will the economy be like in that situation? So
okay.
theoretically, if a lot of these folks are moving into the country because they can afford it now with the low payment, and or they're trying to have a long-term plan for keeping out of another pandemic lockdown. They've got their grandma with them, they've got their grandkids with them. Those big properties have room for a school, a school room, a work room, an exercise room, that whole thing. So
Yeah.
I guess it's really going to depend on what happens to the public opinion on how much safety we need from a potential reoccurrence of a pandemic.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the most popular price segment we sell is 1 to 5 acres.
Yep,
Right
small
now,
acreage. Yeah, we call that small acreage.
small acreage. And the reason I say that is that prices there 1 year ago have risen 40% in that range. And
Wow, isn't that
you're
something?
seeing that by far, it's that 5 acre, 1 to 5 acres is the most popular price range with the highest increases that we've seen in the entire three
Wow.
county terms.
Yeah.
So that's just as showing. And in Josephine County, there's also pretty popular. It went up by 50%. The 1 to 5 acres in terms of
Wow.
from 1 year ago. That is really, really high. So we've been saying that rural properties are under siege. There's not very, and the thing is, there's just not very many of them. And when they come on in that acreage, no matter literally what condition they're in, they're going to go because someone can come in and really going to change them if they have to. So that's really that's a real eye opener to me as terms of what the demand is for our rural properties. And I don't think that's going to. I don't really, Alice. I don't see that. I don't see that part of it slowing down at all. I mean, I can see for other parts of the market. I just don't see that happening right now until we're way past maybe the pandemic time, and we're all mostly maybe back to whatever normal was going to be in the future.
What is that?
I have no idea.
Yeah. And it's interesting because I still maintain that those spikes in prices, especially in the rural districts in Southern Oregon, were artificial. They're here to stay, but it was it was not market conditions that drove that up. So not economic market conditions. It was the pandemic, and then it was the fire. So if demand continues, then the prices should stabilize, because 40 and 50% appreciation in 12 months is not a sustainable anything. And we still have sellers that are calling and saying, well, my property went up $60,000 and I want to list it, but I want to list it for 60,000 over that. And it's like, well, you're going to hang out there by yourself. And we're seeing a lot of people doing that in that 800 to 2 million mark. And they're just sitting on the market. So I think you just have to be realistic about what your expectations are. And right now, I think a lot of us are predicting that the market will stabilize. We will have more listings to choose from. It starts in the higher price ranges and then trickles down. Or we could end up with a flood of profit taking in, like I'm seeing the beginning of this week, profit taking in those small cottages where, you know, they bought them for 179,000. They can sell them for 280 and then go buy something in the country, you know?
And yeah, pay 30, 40% more, you know, kind of thing. Yeah, no, but that's, I mean, everybody's different. Every person has their own dream and their own views and stuff in this. And so we really, I think that's what makes it fun, is to try to figure it out. What are the ways that we can achieve the goals that the buyers or the sellers have there, and each one varies. I just want to talk. I know we have a break coming up, but just want to talk about inventory for just a second, to show you kind of what the situation really is, and why we talk about it so much. My favorite one so far, looking at all these stats, is Northwest Grants Pass. Okay, you know, Northwest Grants Pass is nice neighborhoods up there. You know, in there. A year ago, they had 36 listings up there before the pandemic. Yesterday, they had 3. That's that's 92% down.
Well, they sell fast because a lot of people, if they are going to put their kids in school, Grants Pass, a lot of people like that little corridor.
Okay, well, Northeast Grants Pass is the same. There's 5 listings there. You know, I mean, so they're all down really low. In Jackson County, my favorite one of all of those is that right now, and we watch these every month for 13 years, that Ashland has more listings than East Medford. Never seen that. I can't believe there's 49 in Ashland today, and there's 42 in East Medford. East Medford is down 64% from a year ago. East Medford by itself would usually have about 150 listings in it. I mean, normally they're down to 42, and that's in all price ranges. And again, half of our market in Jackson County is 500,000 or above. So you can see how, again, and you're correct that listings are coming on, absolutely, and they're coming on and they're going off as fast as they're coming on for the most part. Our days on the market is really down a lot, but there's still properties out there that are not selling because they're priced too high. They're not in good condition. People are going away. Look, you better have your house. I believe with you. With the one thing I so agree with you, Alice, is get your home pre-home inspected before you put it on the market. Because buyers, they better be perfect, or they're going to have you fix them, or they're going to want more money, something. But you were so right to have that information ahead of time, and I see it day after day, all the time. Over that.
And you know, if they're coming from a bigger urban area, then they actually expect to see that. They'll call you and say, where's the inspection? It's like, oh, well, here in Southern Oregon, not very many people do that. So it would really help grease the skids, so to speak. Plus, I think the disclosure situation is handled better because you've done everything you possibly can as a seller to inform the buyer on your own dime. And I just love the idea of doing that.
If you're one of the 50 luxury properties for sale in Jackson County, and you want a buyer, you ought to have the home inspection already handed to the potential buyers.
And the well test and the septic.
Well test and all those tests, have them done. And I just see it day after day that people ask these questions, and the sellers, to me, look really, I don't want to say crazy. Like, sellers need to have a better answer than, well, I haven't done it.
I agree. That's not a good idea.
I mean, beat the competition. I mean, if you have the stuff and the other guy doesn't have the stuff, you're going to save a buyer maybe $1,500 worth of inspections. That means something.
Yeah, but I don't think it's about the money. I think it's just the buyers have more trust and they know they're not getting bamboozled. I mean, the money does slow down the buyers, but I think it's just a trust building transparency thing. And you know what else? If we're transitioning out of a really steep hard seller's market into a more normal market, then that kind of stuff is going to make a difference. Like you just said, Pete, it's going to tilt the scales. People are going to look at these different listings and they're going to pick the one that already has the due diligence on it because they're safer.
Mhm. Yeah, no, and it's faster to close. It's just less hassle. And so just think about that, especially as buyers. I really encourage that. And Al's been promoting that since we got together on this show. And I try to use it all the time, and it really makes the transaction go a lot better. Hey, when we got a break coming up, when we come back, let's talk a little bit about the Oregon legislature and what they're doing, Alice, to renters and to homeowners eventually. As you know, every 2 years we go through this, and
Yep.
2021 is going to be different. They want to tax real estate. It's easy to do, and people have to fight back on this because that is just, I think, the worst thing you can do to moderate to low income people who are buying homes is to take that mortgage deduction away from them. So anyway, that's coming up, and we'll talk about that maybe a little bit later.
All right. So Pete Belcastro, Alice Lima, we will be right back with the Real Estate Show. Do not touch that dial. Well, good morning and welcome back to the Real Estate Show, folks. Pete Belcastro, my co-host, and I, Alice Lima, we're here bringing you another rendition of our weekly real estate radio show, the only one in Southern Oregon. And we're very grateful to our sponsors, John L. Scott, Guy Giles, Mutual Omaha Mortgage, and our local Rogue Valley Association of Realtors. We appreciate you all so much. So we're having a very lively conversation about the market, the transition, what's really happening. And one of the things I wanted to point out is that the National Association of Realtors came out with kind of an anniversary article talking about some of the market changes and lifestyle changes since the shutdown. And guess what, Pete?
Okay.
We didn't have as many babies born. Now, see, I would have lost that bet because I would have thought, well, and so they're saying that people were worried and they didn't want to, have children.
Right.
Now, plus they weren't sure how they were going to house them. Now that many of the states are opening up, there's a little bit of hesitancy to bring more children into the world right now. This is just a stat, folks. I'm not being one way or the other, but they're saying that there is a demand for work at home spaces and that the birth rate is significantly down even since the 1980s.
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's no difference. Well, and the pandemic has scared a lot of people, and we're seeing, still everybody has their choices to make, but it's scared a lot, and that makes total sense to me. I think, Alice, that's why we have seen so few listings come on over the course of this last year.
Exactly. Yeah.
Afraid to go, and I don't blame them. If I hadn't been forced out by a fire, I would still be where I was.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to go there, neither do the people that I know. So unless you were forced to go, as you say, you've got there's job changes, there's death, there's divorce, there's all sorts of things that require you to move or something. But if you didn't have to, I think the story of the pandemic in this last year, if it was anything, was that people stayed put. They didn't leave because they had no place to go and were afraid of what they were going to face because heck, the whole country was shut down. You couldn't fly anywhere, you couldn't go anywhere. And so we're seeing that lifted now. So we're going to see as we come into that spring selling season, April and May are the two busiest real estate months of the year. And I think we're projected, because we've already seen what the stats are doing now, how busy it is. We'll see how much greater that is going to be when April and May is completed here and more listings are there. And as you say, if I've had a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm not going to list my house until May. I love the month of May. It's a pretty month. The house is beautiful with flowers." Well, in May, you're going to have a lot more competition, I think, than you are going to have on March the 15th or something like that. So people have to make those choices, but you have to get your house ready. The biggest thing is get your house ready, especially if you're going to sell it. Let's get it ready. And it just makes the whole thing go a lot easier for all sides.
Well, we could sure use some more listings, especially if they were market ready. But one of the other things to remember if you are considering selling your home is that we're still following the COVID protocols. We're still having everybody be masked. For sellers or homeowners that are immune compromised, we still have gloves. We have gloves, masks, sanitizers. We're still following the whole thing. I do see a few people doing open houses, and there's different opinions about that. So right now, I think a lot of the brokerage, real estate brokerages are leaving it up to the seller to
Yeah.
decide. And so far, I do not have one seller that's really excited about the idea of an open house, especially since they've been able to prove over the last year that you can actually sell a lot of houses with videos, with floor plans, with an inspection, and not have to have strangers just kind of randomly going through your house. What's your opinion on that, Pete?
Well, that's a good one. We've never faced anything like this before, have we? And I think you're right. I think the seller should decide whether they want to allow people in and do an open house. As you say, look, we learned a lot. We can say, look what was sold during the last year. 1 year ago, when we did the show in mid-March, and they were just shutting down, we thought that real estate was going to go right off the cliff. That
We
the whole
did.
thing was
That's what we thought.
horrible. And it went down for a little bit, but by April, when people started to figure out what the heck was going on, April started the first wave, and it really hasn't stopped since then. So I don't think that's really going to change much out of that. I do want to just before we go, Alice, on this thing about the legislature, just to tell people that be aware. The Oregon legislature is trying their bills that have been introduced. Again, the hearings are coming up, I believe, regarding the elimination of the mortgage interest deduction on your taxes in Oregon, which would be just a shameful thing for, especially for low and moderate income people who are creating wealth, family in your property, and to have that deduction taken away is just awful. There's enough money in this state. They don't need to keep coming back every session and try to tax real estate. The reason they do it, it's easy to tax. All you got to do is, put a board out and you make a deal. We can tax you. And so that's easy to do, but they must not do that. And we have, and realtors and the Oregon Association of Realtors lobbying group are all over that. And I know, I don't believe it's going to pass again, but you never know. And you have to be aware of it. The other fund is if you're a landlord, is the landlord relief fund. It's out there now. You need to check it out. The catch to it, you have to have your tenant write a letter explaining how they were affected by the COVID before you can even tap into any of those funds. So it's really up to the landlord to get the tenant to do that if they want to tap into that fund. And I don't know if it's going to work or not, but it's out there. Again, we're just throwing money, Alice, all over to everything. Money solves all problems with government, and we're seeing that with this as well.
Well, and the landlord tenant laws in Oregon are unique compared to nationwide, because we are very progressive and one of a kind in that department. But, a lot of the landlords have decided to move their portfolios out of Oregon. And it's a combination of what happened during the pandemic and then also the low interest rates. So they can repackage, and there's an IRS vehicle called a 1031 exchange. We'll talk about that in one of our upcoming shows, but it allows you to move investment money from one property to another and delay paying the tax on the gains until a future date. And so I see an awful lot of landlords doing that here in Southern Oregon. But it's causing a real crisis with the tenants because, like we were talking about earlier, Pete, in the show, we don't have that many landlords buying up these properties. We have more of them selling. And so I think we're just going to need to come up with some creative ideas about how to help these tenants, unless they can get qualified to buy a house.
Yeah, well, we're losing as a result of the action of the legislature. We are losing rental housing. So we've the total number of rental housing
that is the net effect. Exactly. You're right.
Effect of it. And so you're seeing the result of too much government kind of interference, if you think about that. But we've lost rental housing. And I'm telling you, I have so much empathy for people who are looking for rental housing who simply cannot find it. It's tragic. And I don't have a solution to that, but I know that it get those ADUs going in Medford, do something. Let's to try to get this solved. It's a big problem. Anyway, nice to visit with you this week. And next week we'll see where this goes. We're almost to that point, Alice. Winter's over and spring is almost here. We're gonna find out if it's all true or what takes place.
And it's still not too late to list your home, folks. It's a great time. There's still a lot of eager buyers out there. You will have more competition as the weeks go on, but who doesn't want to live in Southern Oregon? For the most part, we all love it here and we all feel pretty lucky. So if you can get your house on the market in the next few weeks, I think you'll do pretty well. Much past that, you'll just have more competition in my opinion. But like Pete said, we'll find out. We'll talk to you guys again next week. This is Pete Del Castro, Alice Lima. We're both brokers here at John L. Scott in Southern Oregon, saying have an absolutely fabulous Southern Oregon weekend. This broadcast will be repeated tomorrow at 6 o'clock. Make it a great day. Bye, folks.